Hey, what's going on, Who Dat Nation? It is yours truly, TJ Jones, the host of the State of the Saints podcast, and I have a special guest with me. We have Who That Disc contributor, and he also has his own podcast, the Mike Balko Show. I want you all to welcome Mr. Mike Balko. What's going on, man?
What's up, guys? How we doing today? Happy to be on the show today.
Yeah, man. Appreciate your time, man. Thank you so much for spending your Friday morning, man. I know it's early, man, but
No worries, no worries.
yeah, so I appreciate you checking in with us, man, to talk New Orleans Saints. Excited
Always.
about this, man.
Let's get it.
Man, and I'm also excited about training camp, Mike. I'm excited about, some of the storylines that are going on in training camp, especially the wide receiver position. The Saints have a lot of good wide receivers on the team, a lot of young talent. Who is the person that you feel like is going to actually be a part of that starting rotation? I mean, we already know about Michael Thomas, Emmanuel Sanders. That's pretty much set in stone. But the third wide receiver along fourth, fifth, and sixth, who do you feel like is going to be a part of that rotation?
Yeah, so obviously we all know as Saints fans, that's a big wild card position for us. I know the Saints have talked about wanting to get Deontay Harris a little bit more involved with the offense. But if I'm throwing out wild cards, I'm going to say Marquez Callaway, our undrafted free agent from Tennessee. I think he's got a ton of potential, and he's got some sick dreads too. So, he's rocking that Marcus Colston number too. So
Yeah,
I think he has a ton of potential. Emmanuel Butler's another guy. Jawan Johnson, also undrafted free agent from Oregon's a very, very good player as well. But Traquan Smith is obviously, I think, going to be that number 3 guy. He's going to have a lot of mismatches. He's usually the number 3, but he kind of fits in that number 2 role. He just has to really just kind of step up and embrace, maybe not just make one great catch a game. Let's maybe make like 3 or 4 great catches a game,
right.
Especially when there's going to be linebackers on him like 9 times out of 10.
Yeah, I mean, I think that it's Traquan Smith's job to lose, and I think that the addition of Emmanuel Sanders is going to help him out tremendously because Emmanuel Sanders does a lot of his damage in the slot, and the Saints use Traquan Smith in the slot quite a bit because of Ted Ginn Jr. Now that we see Ted Ginn, he's out there in Chicago. That frees up a spot for Traquan where I feel like he can play on the outside a little bit more, where he flourished at Central Florida, and it might be able to help him resurrect his career, man. Because right now, a lot of question marks about Traquan Smith, to say the least. As far as Marquez Callaway, man, it seems like to me that the Who Dat Nation has embraced this guy like more than any other of the young rookies, even like players that have been on the team for a year or two. What is it about Marquez Callaway, in your opinion, that makes him stand out among the rest?
Man, he just got like a swag about him, bro. It's just like he's there to work, and he's there with the mentality that like kind of like you just mentioned with Traquan Smith, like it's his job to lose,
Right.
My man, former teammates with Alvin Kamara, he was a beast at Tennessee, which is a big school, playing against really good opponents, against some really good corners. He was balling out. And honestly, I can't believe he didn't get drafted. I had him. I actually wrote some mock drafts earlier in the year, and I had Callaway going to us in like the 5th or 6th. So it's crazy that he didn't even get picked, and I'm thankful he's on our team. I just hope that the Saints don't do him like they typically do and keep Austin Carr on the roster and not keep an actual talented receiver on the team.
Well, I mean, I think Marquez Callaway, I think the one thing that he suffered from was the fact that Tennessee doesn't have really good quarterbacks, man. And I think it's the same thing with Alvin Kamara. Alvin Kamara, was a big fish, and a little pine, and the fact that Tennessee, you got to go back to like, T. Martin back in 98, last time you actually seen a credible quarterback at Tennessee. So I think that Marquez Callaway, he is a steal. And I think that Jeff Ireland and, the rest of the scout team do an outstanding job finding those diamonds in the rough, in order to come to the New Orleans Saints and contribute right away. I'm looking forward to seeing Callaway possibly on the field. But speaking of diamond in the rough, Mike, let's talk a little bit about tight end Adam Trautman. Now, I was looking at an interview earlier with Jared Cook. He talked a little bit about Adam Trautman and the fact that he has grasped the playbook and he has been doing an outstanding job so far in practice. So what is it about Adam Trautman that once again has everybody going crazy about? I mean, comparing him to people like Rob Gronkowski and George Kittle. I mean, that is some elite territory right there. But do you think that he has what it takes to actually live up to the expectations?
He's a raw prospect. The Saints have a thing for raw prospects, just like they did with Davenport. But yeah, I think a lot of those comparisons come with a 6'6" frame, obviously. But the dude was a dog, and he was, a lower D1 school at Dayton. And, his senior year, he had 70 catches. He had about, I think it was 900 something yards and 14 touchdowns. Like,
right.
that ranks you amongst the best tight ends in the nation right there. In his career, he scored 31 touchdowns, and 2 of his years he was injured. So, I mean, the dude's obviously just a natural playmaker. And when you're playing for those smaller schools, you have to be a playmaker to really stand out. And, Dan Campbell, actually, the Saints tight end coach, was kind of talking about him earlier this year. I saw it on a different podcast about how he's already just kind of coming and like taking over the room. And, like Jared Cook's a big fan of him, as you said. And it's almost kind of like a transition year. So I think he's going to learn a lot from Jared Cook. I think he's going to learn a lot from Josh Hill, two established veterans. And then I think, next year he's going to be that number one. As we see Cook, we have a lot of contract disputes going on. So I think, Cook could be on the way out. This could be his last year. And then, Trautman's going to take over. And then, who knows what's going to happen with Tommy Stevens as well. So there's a bunch of scenarios, question marks going on with the Saints. Right. But yeah, I think Trautman is going to live up to that hype. I don't know if he's going to be Rob Gronkowski, but I mean, I'll take it.
I mean, even if you're like close to being Rob Gronkowski, what I'm saying? That's still a plus. I mean, Rob Gronkowski
without the injuries.
Exactly. Rob Gronkowski, arguably the greatest tight end to ever play the game. So, I mean, even if you're like, half of what he is, you pretty much have a solid career. But you mentioned another guy I want to talk about, Tommy Stevens, man. Tommy Stevens, the Saints moved back into the draft to acquire him. He came out of Mississippi State, spent a little bit of time at Penn State as well. But he was supposed to play the quarterback position, but the Saints moved him to tight end. What do you think about Tommy Stevens making this move? And do you think that he can be a part of the starting rotation or even make the team at tight end?
So I'm happy you asked that. I'm a big Tommy Stevens fan. I've actually talked to Tommy Stevens a little bit back in the day when he wasn't famous. But so yeah, the dude's driven. So, I mean, he's got that going for him. And, believe it or not, like, I think a guy at the tight end position this year that could be on the bubble is Josh Hill. Like, I know it seems crazy because, like, I mean, the dude's just unreliable.
It don't sound crazy.
Right. But, like, I mean, he's just always reliable. He's just always catching passes, has a 77 career catch percentage, Josh Hill. But yeah, I think, Tommy Stevens, before he was even selected, before the draft even started, the Saints were in contact with him and they asked him to send videos of him running routes, blocking, doing like receiver running back type thing. So they kind of envisioned for him to be like kind of a Taysom Hill. So this doesn't really come as a surprise to me that they're moving him to tight end. It is kind of a surprise that they're actually like permanently switching his position to tight end and not more of less like a quarterback hybrid like Taysom Hill. But I think he can make the switch. And, if Josh Hill ends up getting cut and they want to keep Tommy Stevens, which honestly wouldn't be a bad idea, having a guy who could play quarterback, running back, receiver, tight end, that's not a bad idea. On the roster, I think that'd be a smart move for them.
Yeah, I think it'll be a smart move as well. I think that by adding him to the team, a lot of people were comparing him to the skill set of what Taysom Hill actually had. So I think that this is just me just guessing. I'm feeling like the New Orleans Saints want to transition Taysom Hill to more of a quarterback role to get him acclimated, to the offense and being a quarterback. Not to say that he's going to be the successor to Drew Brees. I talked about that on the last podcast. Not that they're trying to make him the successor, but you want to give him all the tools in the toolbox in order for him to make or break his career. So
exactly. I've been preaching this, bro. I've been preaching this.
I mean, it's the truth. I mean, I feel like that'd be very unfair for us in the Who Dat Nation to be critiquing Taysom Hill if he does. I mean, he even touched on it, I think maybe like a year ago. He talked about how he has to go from room to room, special teams room, tight end room, quarterback room. So for him being in one room, allowing him to absorb the offense and get more acclimated to the playbook, I think it'll be beneficial. And you adding somebody like Tommy Stevens with a similar skill set is going to help out Taysom Hill tremendously at the quarterback position. But But speaking of quarterback positions, Jameis Winston was acquired in the offseason by the New Orleans Saints. It's no surprise right now, over 5,000 yards, 30 touchdowns, 30 interceptions. He comes to the New Orleans Saints, a lot of unanswered questions and a lot of, in my opinion, untapped potential. Do you think that the Saints will be able to use Jameis Winston this season? And if so, do you feel like they could resurrect his career?
That's a tough one, man. So obviously you can't predict injuries. You can't predict who's going to get COVID, who's not,
Right.
stuff like that. So it's hard to say whether we're actually going to use him or not. And like you mentioned, like if Drew Brees were to go down, if Drew Brees were to get COVID, if Drew Brees were to, something happens to Drew Brees, he can't play a week. Are they going to go with Taysom or are they going to go with Jameis? That's a
Right.
tough one. I think the nod does go to Jameis simply because he has been an established quarterback. He did lead the NFL in passing yards. He was the number one overall pick.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I am a big fan of Jameis Winston as well. I'm actually a Florida State fan, so obviously I got to see him at Florida State, and I saw him lead us to a national championship, all that stuff. And yeah, so obviously having to go against him in Tampa Bay hasn't been the greatest little stretch for him, but he does have a ton of potential. He does have all the tangibles it takes to be a starting quarterback in the NFL. And he turned down, offers to make more money just to learn under Drew Brees and Sean Payton. It goes to show that like he is genuinely concerned about like his career. He wants to really genuinely make a change for the better. And it could be another Teddy Bridgewater situation where, he gets to play a couple games this year and goes off and makes a bunch of money. Or it could be he doesn't play. He re-signs with the Saints for a little bit less, and Drew Brees hangs up the cleats, and then we have a nice battle between Taysom and Jameis. And
Right.
I think I give Jameis the nod there.
Yeah. Look, I think one thing that kind of hurt Jameis Winston was the fact throughout his entire career, for the exception of maybe like his first year, they really didn't have a running game out there in Tampa. You had Doug Martin, but I mean, he was in and out of the lineup. There was a plug and place type mentality when it came to the running back position, not too much stability. And not to mention Bruce Arians, who became the head coach. I mean, this guy likes to throw the ball all over the place, bombs away type offense. And I feel like every quarterback that has ever played with Bruce Arians has always struggled when it comes to the interceptions. I mean, you can even talk about Andrew Luck, man. When Chuck Pagano went down and Bruce Arians actually came in and he was the offensive coordinator and head coach. Andrew Luck had an issue with turning the ball over. I mean, Carson Palmer. I mean, the list goes on and on. So I feel like with Jameis Winston coming into the Saints offense, I feel like the fact that he has a running game, the fact that I feel like Sean Payton is going to utilize his strengths, just like he did with Teddy Bridgewater. Teddy Bridgewater, he didn't ask Teddy to do what he wasn't comfortable with doing. I feel like it will help Jameis Winston, and I think he will resurrect his career. And you mentioned, and I feel like it's going to be a very interesting battle. And I don't think that the Saints just signed him for a one-year deal just to keep him as a backup to Drew Brees. I think they see some potential in him. But let's talk a little bit about the offensive line. The offensive line, there's some new faces. We know about Cesar Ruiz, the first-round draft pick out of Michigan, and we know about Eric McCoy, who did a okay job playing center last season once Max Unger decided to hang it up. But there's a position battle going on between Cesar Ruiz and Eric McCoy. Do you feel like Cesar Ruiz will start as the center of the New Orleans Saints in his rookie season, or do you feel like he is going to be a guard and in his second season the Saints are going to transition him to center?
Yeah, so he's going to be a center. And I'm pretty sure Sean Payton already kind of mentioned that, or at the offensive line, so one of the coaches already kind of mentioned that, I believe. But yeah, I think they have all intentions of starting Cesar Ruiz at center, I believe at least. And then they're transitioning Eric McCoy to guard. Actually, I believe Eric McCoy on the Saints roster, if I'm not mistaken, is already listed as a guard. So I believe they already moved him over there. But I think McCoy is going to do much better at guard than he did at center. And I think Ruiz is going to be absolutely phenomenal center to have for Drew Brees' final season. I think he had like one of the highest graded like scores ever coming out of college at Michigan, and all these like accolades he had, and I think he only gave up like one sack in his college career. Dude's a genius. So so is Drew Brees. So I think they're gonna click well, and I think he's gonna be a great center that the Saints are gonna have for years.
Yeah. This is a position, and I had Zach Streif on the show a couple of days ago, and he was talking a little bit about the Saints trying to find that next Max Unger, and I think Cesar Ruiz is the answer. I mean, I think he only had like 2 flags in his entire college career, and I think was a legal man downfield for both of them. So I mean,
man's just anxious.
Yeah, I mean that tells you everything that you need to know about this guy, And I'm looking forward to seeing him, and I think that there's finally going to be some true stability, even though Eric McCoy did a good job, but some true stability at the center position. Finally, I want to ask you, man. We're talking about the offensive line, and of course, their job is to protect not just the quarterback, but also run block. And something that has been an issue with the New Orleans Saints, and I know you hear it all the time, is the fact that we feel like the Saints need to run the football. Okay, they need to commit a little bit more to the run. So Alvin Kamara, he had injuries last season. He came out and said, he was injured after the Jacksonville game. Latavius Murray came in, played 2 games and started, went over 100 yards in both of those games. And then when Alvin Kamara came back, we didn't see Latavius Murray, and we did not really see a true commitment to the running game. In 2020, Mike, do you feel like the Saints are going to be more committed to the run, being that Drew Brees is possibly in his last season?
Yeah, I think they will if, Eric McCoy can make that transition to guard, and if Cesar Ruiz ends up being as good as he's hyped up to be, I do think so, yeah. And I do think they need to give Latavius Murray the ball more. I like using Kamara the way we use him in like that flex hybrid kind of role. Like it seems like it's crazy. Like everybody on the Saints seems to be a flex hybrid kind of guy. Right. But, I like the way, Alvin Kamara, 81 catches in his first 3 years, every single year, 81. So, Pro Bowler 3 years in a row. I like the fact that he's like our receiving back, kind of like a Darren Sproles or a Reggie Bush, bounce it around the outside type of guy. But I want Latavius Murray, man. Like Latavius Murray still managed to get like almost 700 rushing yards, and he ran the ball like 120 times. Yeah. That's insane. Yeah. That is insane, bro. Yeah. Like this dude's like our pure running back. Like I think honestly, if he were to play a full season, I think he would put up better numbers than like Mark Ingram did with us. Yeah. And it's insane. He just fits so well with our offense, and he's just such a, he's like 6'4", impossible to tackle. Like, but yeah, I think, when you have 2 really good running backs, and then you also have like, a Taysom Hill you can throw back there, or you have like a Tony Jones Jr., who's a undrafted free agent who's looking to make the roster as well. Right. He's literally a mix between Latavius Murray and Alvin Kamara. I think I'm sure we'll touch on it a little bit later, but I think, he could make the roster coming out of the backfield. And then Ty Montgomery now, man, like, you're adding all these studs in the backfield. There's no reason why you shouldn't commit to the run.
Yeah. I mean, and not to mention Dwayne Washington too, man. Right. Another guy who comes in. I mean, you can say that it's garbage time and mop up duty, but I mean, this guy still contributes.
He's got some juice.
Yep. And not to mention back in 2018, when he actually went over 100 yards against Carolina. Now I know we got blew out, but I mean, he was the bright spot in that game, and keep in mind, I mean, he was running behind an offensive line that the Saints signed off the street. So I think that I think they should have more of a commitment to the run. And you mentioned Latavius Murray, Mike. I said last night on the podcast, I said Latavius Murray is like they have that saying, he's the bridesmaid, but he's never been a bride. I mean, everywhere that he went, he was always good, but teams, coaches, organizations did not want to commit to him. Out in Oakland, I mean, he went over 1,000 yards, had his best season, probably in the best career, career stats in Oakland. He gets signed by Minnesota. Minnesota decides to go get Dalvin Cook. I mean, it just seems to me like Latavius Murray, I don't know what it is about him. I don't know why teams don't want to commit to him, but he always leaves his print everywhere that he goes. And I feel like when I look at the way that he runs the football, the way that the New Orleans Saints could possibly use him. I mean, this guy went over 100 yards against the Chicago Bears defense. And I understand Akeem Hicks wasn't playing at the time. I get it. But
Khalil Mack was.
And they had Roquan Smith out there and all these other players, that were out there. I mean, Khalil Mack was out there. So let's not make it seem like, that wasn't impressive. So I like him a lot, man. But Mike, thank you so much for being part of the State of the Saints podcast. And before you get up out of here, man, let everybody know how they can get in touch with you.
Yeah, so I'm on Twitter, Instagram, all that good stuff. Twitter at Michael Balko Jr., And then Instagram, it's at michael.balko. Y'all can hit me up anytime, any Saints questions. I'm always open to do podcasts, all this good stuff. And then also, tune into whodatdish.com. I'm posting articles all the time covering the Saints. So, yeah, State of the Saints podcast on the way up, though, bro. You've got a good thing going here, man.
Man, I appreciate it, man. But I mean, it's for people like yourself, that's nice enough to come and be a part of the show, and also the Who Dat Nation, man. I mean, I can't take much credit for that, man. It's all because of you guys, and I appreciate it, man. And we're looking forward to seeing some of your contributions to the Who Dat Dish, and also, man, checking out your podcast too on Anchor FM, the Mike Balko Show, man. So we're looking forward to it, and thank you so much for your time, man.
Yeah, no worries. Have a good one, bro.
All right, you take care. This is the State of the Saints podcast. Michael Balko, y'all. Y'all take it easy. All right, Who Dat?